A baby locks up on a live stream, the chat is screaming that he is having a seizure, and his own mother looks at the camera and keeps the show rolling. Not for 1 minute. Not for 10 minutes. 4 hours. And when the worst of it is over, she does not call a doctor. She does not call for help. She gets up and says she needs to grab something real quick. I am going to say the thing that half the internet is thinking and almost nobody with a platform is brave enough to say out loud. There is a little boy named Junior whose entire life is being broadcast like a reality show nobody auditioned for, the red flags are stacked so high they are blocking out the sun, and the grown-ups who are supposed to protect him are too busy fighting over Blueface, a man who does not even claim him to notice that this child is slipping away in real time. And if that sounds dramatic, good. It should. Because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why thousands of strangers are losing sleep over a toddler they have never met, why the calls to Child Protective Services reportedly will not stop, and why everybody from medical professionals in the chat to people inside the family's own orbit is quietly bracing for an ending nobody wants to say out loud. This is not tea. This is not a messy celebrity breakup recap you half listen to while folding laundry. This is the story of a child who cannot speak for himself, and the adults who keep choosing the camera over the crib. So stay locked in, because what you think you know about this situation is maybe 10% of it, and the 90% you are missing is the part that will keep you up tonight. Now, before the comments set themselves on fire, let me be 100% clear about the ground rules, because I play fair even when the story is ugly. Everything we are walking through today comes from what has been reported, what has been posted publicly, and what viewers claim they watched with their own eyes on live broadcasts that ran longer than most people's work shifts. I am not a pediatrician. I am not a social worker. I am not sitting in that living room. I am a person who watched the same clips you watched, read the same reporting you read, and felt my stomach drop the same way yours did. So we are going to deal in what people are saying, what the footage appears to show, and where the line sits between internet speculation and legitimate alarm. And believe me, we are going to walk right up to that line and look at it carefully, because this story deserves honesty, not hysteria. I am not here to diagnose a child through a phone screen, and I am not here to declare anybody a monster. I am here to lay out what the internet has seen, what the people involved have said, and why the gap between those two things has an entire community terrified. And at the very end, I want your honest read on all of it, because this is one of those rare stories where the comments section is not going to agree on a single thing. So let's rewind, all the way back, because you cannot understand the live stream that broke the internet until you understand the war that little boy was born into. The woman at the center of this entire storm is Chrisean Rock, and if you have been anywhere near a timeline in the last few years, you already know that name. Rapper. Reality fixture. Headline machine. And for a long stretch, the on-again, off-again partner of the rapper Blueface. And when I say their relationship was chaotic, I do not mean regular celebrity messy. I mean breakups announced at midnight and reunions by breakfast. I mean police reports and public humiliations. I mean the kind of romance that lived entirely in the group chat of the whole country, where every fight was content and every reconciliation was a season premiere. Nothing about it was calm. Nothing about it was private. And right in the middle of that hurricane, while the two of them were still swinging at each other in front of millions, a baby arrived. A son. The child the internet now calls Junior. And here is where the story stops being gossip and starts being a warning label, because from his very first breath, that baby was not treated like a blessing. He was treated like a chess piece. And once you see how the game was being played around him, every single thing that happened after it makes a terrible kind of sense. Listen closely, because this next part sounds unbelievable and it is the key to the whole story. Chrisean wanted her son to be a junior. She wanted him carrying Blueface's name, stamped with a permanent, unbreakable link to a man she was fighting tooth and nail to keep. In Chrisean's mind, that name was supposed to be the anchor, the thing that would tie Blueface to her forever no matter how bad the fighting got. But here is what a lot of people do not understand about how this actually works. You cannot simply declare a baby a junior. It is not a nickname you pull out of thin air at the hospital. It is a legal designation, and it requires the father to show up, sign the birth certificate, present identification, and consent to his name being handed down to his child. That is the law. That is the tradition. That is how legacies are supposed to get passed. And according to everything that has been reported, Blueface did not show up. He did not sign. He did not consent. He was not there. So no matter how badly Chrisean wanted that baby to be Jonathan Porter Jr., she could not make it happen, because you cannot name a child after a man who refuses to claim him. Sit with how heavy that is. The very first chapter of this little boy's life is Blueface declining to put his name on him. And this is the moment where people who have followed this family from day one say the spite took the wheel. Because instead of letting it go, instead of giving her son a clean name that belonged to him and only him, a fresh start with no war baked into it, Chrisean reportedly rebranded that baby anyway, folding him into her own family line and calling it close enough. Except it was not close at all. The details got twisted so badly that the name he ended up with does not even function as a true junior from his mother's side, because the middle names do not line up. Think about that. Really think about it. The child is not carrying his father's name, and he is not even properly carrying his mother's. He is a little boy wearing a label stitched together out of anger, a consolation prize in a war between two adults, a nickname that stuck because it was the only thread connecting him to a man who would not claim him. And people who watched this happen in real time say that single decision told you everything about how that baby was going to be valued in that house. Not as a person. Not as a fresh start. As a trophy in a fight he never entered. As leverage. And when a child starts life as leverage, everything that comes after is built on that foundation. And if you think the name drama ended there, sweetheart, grab a seat, because it spirals. And before we even get to the spiral, understand why people keep circling back to the name at all. In isolation, a messy birth certificate is a private family matter, and plenty of families have complicated paperwork and perfectly happy kids. But the people who have tracked this story from the beginning do not treat the name as paperwork. They treat it as the first entry in a pattern, the opening move in a habit of decisions where the adult's feelings came first and the child's needs came second. And whether or not you buy that framing, you have to admit the framing sets the table for everything the internet believes it has watched since. While Chrisean was battling to make her son a junior, Blueface moved on. He found somebody new. Her name is Nivea. And Nivea got pregnant, and this time, according to every report out there, Blueface did every single thing he refused to do for Chrisean. Blueface showed up. He signed. He claimed the child. And that baby entered the world with both parents standing there and walked out of the hospital holding the exact name Chrisean could not get. Jonathan Porter Jr., the real one. The legal one. The one with a father on paper. So now line these two babies up next to each other and look at what the internet sees, because the internet has definitely been looking. One child, healthy, claimed, legally carrying the name. The other child, reportedly struggling, carrying a name that does not even make sense, raised in a house that viewers say revolves around the ghost of the man who left. People say that contrast is not a detail. They say it is the whole engine. Every meltdown, every marathon stream, every desperate headline that has come out of Chrisean's corner since, they trace it straight back to one brutal reality. Nivea is reportedly living the life Chrisean believed was hers. The family. The name. The man showing up. And Chrisean is left holding the bill for a future that got handed to somebody else. That kind of wound does not heal quietly. It performs. And that brings us to the live streams, because this is where the story stops being sad and starts being genuinely frightening. Chrisean has developed a reputation for going live for stretches that defy belief. Not an hour. Not 2. We are talking 8 hours. 12 hours. And in some reported cases, broadcasts that crept toward a full day. Now, going live is not a crime, and I am not going to pretend it is. Plenty of creators build entire careers on marathon streams, and nobody calls for backup over it. But it was never the length alone that had people's blood running cold. It was what happened while the camera kept rolling. It was the fact that a toddler's entire existence was unfolding inside what was essentially an unscripted television show with no producer, no standards, and no off button. Viewers who sat through those streams describe moments where Junior seemed to check out completely. Eyes glazed. Body still. Unresponsive in a way that made strangers on the other side of the screen sit straight up in their chairs. And here is the detail that turned concern into panic. The chat was not full of random guessers playing doctor for fun. People identifying themselves as nurses, as medical professionals, as people who have seen what they were looking at before, started typing the same sentence over and over. That looks like a seizure. That looks like an absent seizure. That child needs medical attention. And some of those moments were reportedly captured right there on the broadcast, in full view, while Chrisean kept talking to the chat, kept the stream alive, kept the content flowing like Junior in visible distress was just another prop in the background. I need you to actually sit with that for a second, because we have all become so numb to internet chaos that it is easy to scroll past how serious that claim is. If what those viewers say they witnessed is accurate, then a small child had a medical episode on camera, and the response was not to kill the stream and race to an emergency room. The response was to keep broadcasting. And when the stream finally ended, the internet detonated. Clips got clipped. Screenshots multiplied. Group chats caught fire. And the outrage machine hit full speed. Now, to be fair, because I promised you fairness, there were people who said the child was simply tired, that toddlers zone out, that any parent will tell you kids sometimes stare into space like tiny philosophers, and that the internet was doing what the internet does, which is build a crisis out of context. And honestly, some of that skepticism is healthy. The internet has cried wolf before. But there were also people with medical training saying the pattern in those clips was the kind that should send any parent sprinting toward a hospital, not settling back into a ring light. And once you hear that split, once you hear trained people saying this is what distress looks like, you cannot unhear it. That is the moment this stopped being gossip for a lot of folks and started being a countdown. And understand something about the people raising these alarms, because the usual dismissal is that it is just bored trolls looking for drama. That is not what the receipts show. The receipts show viewers treating these broadcasts like a shift, timestamping moments, cross-referencing clips, comparing footage from one week to the next like case notes. When strangers on the internet are keeping more careful records of a child's condition than the adults in his own house appear to be, something has gone fundamentally upside down. And the wildest part is that none of this surveillance was forced on anybody. Every single frame of it was broadcast voluntarily, by choice, for engagement. The audience did not sneak into that home. They were invited in, handed a front row seat, and then told they were crazy for describing what the seat showed them. And since we are being fair, let's keep being fair, because Chrisean has pushed back hard on all of this. Chrisean has said her son is healthy. She has said he is developing at his own pace. Chrisean has said the internet is not a doctor's office and strangers need to stop diagnosing her child through a phone screen. And she has defenders, real ones, loud ones, who say she is a young mother doing her best under a microscope that would break most people, and who point out that the internet has a long, ugly habit of tearing black mothers to shreds for sport while handing out grace to everybody else. I hear that. Genuinely. That history is real, that pattern is documented, and I am not going to insult your intelligence by pretending otherwise. Every community deserves the benefit of the doubt, and young mothers in the spotlight get the least of it. But here is what makes this situation different from a random pile-on, and I need you to track this distinction carefully. This is not strangers diagnosing a child from one blurry photo. This is a mother who has chosen to broadcast her life for hours at a time, voluntarily, continuously, and viewers reacting to what they say unfolded right in front of them in real time. When you put your whole life on camera, the camera becomes evidence. You cannot invite the world into your living room and then act betrayed when the world describes the furniture. And the evidence, according to thousands of people who watched, is what has everybody rattled. So let's walk through the specific things people keep pointing to, because once you stack them up one by one, you will understand why the word pattern keeps coming up in every conversation about this family. First, the playpen. Viewers say that across multiple live streams, Junior sits in a playpen alone. No toys. No books. No stimulation. Nothing to grab, nothing to explore, nothing to engage with. Just a toddler inside four mesh walls while Chrisean entertains the chat for hours. And people who actually work in child development, the ones who do this for a living, say that is not just sad, it is harmful. A toddler's brain is under construction at a speed that will never happen again in his life. This is the window. He needs textures, sounds, motion, colors, faces, conversation, somebody down on the floor inside his world building with him. That is how brains get built. And according to the people watching, Junior was getting a bare pen and a ring light. The most critical developmental window of his entire life, reportedly being spent staring at mesh. Then there is bedtime, or rather the reported absence of one. Viewers claim that when Chrisean needs quiet, Junior gets help sleeping. Melatonin. Sleep aids. Things to knock a toddler out so the show can continue uninterrupted. And people are not mincing words about that one. At best, they call it a blaring red flag. At worst, they call it something I am not even going to put in this script, because the accusation is that heavy. What I will say is that nobody, not a single person defending her, has been able to explain why a child with no consistent schedule would need chemical help to sleep, unless the schedule itself is the problem. And woven through all of it is the routine, or the total lack of one. No consistent bedtime. No consistent meals. No structure a small child can anchor his day to. Viewers say you can see the confusion on him. A baby on camera at 2 in the morning. A toddler at smoke shops, at fights, at adult events pulsing with noise and smoke and chaos. Children need rhythm the way they need air. They need to know what comes next. Predictability is safety to a child. And people who have watched this unfold say Junior has been handed the opposite. Chaos at night, medication to force the sleep his confused little body cannot find on its own, and then another day of the same. And that right there is why the harshest critics have stopped calling this accidental. They say it is neglect by choice. A mother picking the stream over the son, again and again, with the whole thing recorded. Now I already know what some of you are typing. You are saying, you do not know what happens when that camera is off. And you are correct. None of us do. Off-camera could be a completely different world. But when a person turns their private life into a public performance, they do not get to act shocked when the audience reviews the performance. That is the deal that gets signed the first time somebody hits the Go Live button. And the audience has been taking notes. There have been reports of child protective services being called. More than once. Multiple times, according to the people tracking this. And for a long time, nothing visibly changed. The streams continued. The clips multiplied. The worry compounded like interest on a debt nobody was paying. And every week that passed with no visible change, the people watching got louder, because from the outside it looked like the alarms were ringing and nobody in a position of power was answering. And I want to be precise about what that frustration actually is, because it gets misread. Nobody reasonable expects a child welfare case to play out in public, and the absence of a public announcement is not proof that nothing is happening behind the scenes. Systems move slowly, investigations are confidential, and rightly so. But the viewers are not reacting to what the system is doing. They are reacting to what they can see, which is a broadcast schedule that never changed, a setup that never changed, and a set of reported conditions that never changed. When the only window into a child's life is a live stream, and the live stream keeps showing the same worrying picture, people stop trusting the invisible process and start trusting their own eyes. That is the engine of this entire outrage cycle, and it is not going away. And then the health claims started surfacing, and this is where I am going to slow down and be extremely careful, because this is the stretch of the story where the internet gets loudest and the facts get thinnest. There have been widespread claims, repeated across countless accounts, that Junior has vision problems. People point to clips where he does not appear to track objects, where movement in front of his face does not seem to register, where he seems to stare through people instead of at them. And from there, the internet did what it does. Some accounts declared the child blind with total certainty. Some built entire disability narratives out of pixels and speculation. And I will be honest with you, a chunk of that is guesswork dressed up as diagnosis, and I told you at the top I am not playing doctor. But here is what is not speculation, and this is the part that should make everybody sit up. Blueface himself, the child's own father, addressed the claims in an interview. He reportedly said Junior does not have a disability. But in the very same breath, he reportedly blamed the child's development on Chrisean, saying she was the one responsible for how their son was progressing. Do you understand what that actually is? Strip the spin off it. Even if you take Blueface completely at his word, his defense is an accusation. He is confirming his son is behind and pointing directly at the mother as the reason why. That is not a rumor from a gossip page. That is the father of the child saying it out loud with his own chest. Meanwhile, Chrisean insists everything is fine, that her son is healthy, that he is on his own timeline, and Blueface has posted clips of his own that appear to show Junior standing, moving, doing more than the internet's darkest claims suggest. So the truth, as best as anyone outside that house can tell, lives somewhere in the uncomfortable middle. Not a helpless child. But according to a mountain of reported accounts, a child behind where he should be. And the question that keeps everyone up at night is brutally simple. Why is Junior behind, and why is nobody visibly doing anything about it? Because this is where the story takes its darkest turn. People have started using a word that should make every parent's blood freeze. Regression. Not slow progress. Backwards motion. And those two things are not the same, so let me make the difference plain. A delay means a child moving forward at his own pace, and plenty of kids do exactly that and turn out perfectly fine. Regression means a child losing skills he already had. Losing ground. Losing progress. Going backwards. And when viewers say they are watching regression in a child with reported health challenges, they are not describing something that fixes itself with time and patience. They are describing something that demands immediate, serious, professional intervention. They are describing a 5-alarm fire. And according to the people tracking this story day by day, that intervention is not happening. The streams continue. The pen stays. The sleep aid reports keep circulating. And the specialized care that a child with his reported challenges would need, the feeding therapists, the vision specialists, the developmental pediatricians, the early intervention programs, is nowhere anyone can see. Not a single visible appointment. Not a single visible specialist. The focus stays on the drama. The focus stays on Blueface. The focus stays on Nivea and the new baby. And the actual child at the center of the entire circus keeps getting pushed to the edge of the frame like a prop somebody forgot to clear. And let's be precise about what intervention even means here, because people throw that word around without understanding what is actually being asked for. Nobody is demanding anything exotic. They are asking for the basics. A developmental screening. A vision evaluation. A pediatrician who sees this child more than never. Maybe a feeding therapist, maybe an early intervention program, the kind of services that exist in every state, the kind that are often free, the kind that any parent fighting for their child would be camped out in a waiting room to get. That is the bar. Not perfection. Not a mansion with a staff of specialists. Just a mother treating a reported medical concern like a medical concern instead of treating it like background noise on a broadcast. And the fact that even that bar appears to be going unmet is why the word neglect keeps surfacing, because neglect is not always dramatic. Sometimes neglect is just absence. A doctor never called. An appointment never made. A child waiting on an adult who is busy. And I will tell you plainly, that is the part that makes my skin crawl. I have covered messy celebrity stories for a long time. I have watched breakups, breakdowns, betrayals, all of it. Most of it, at the end of the day, is noise. Two egos colliding in public for our entertainment, and we all know the deal, and we all watch anyway. But this is not two egos. This is a real, breathing little boy who cannot tell anyone when he is scared, or hungry, or hurting. A child who cannot type, cannot call, cannot ask for help, cannot walk out of the room. And when the allegations pile up around a child like that, when the footage keeps coming and the explanations never do, it stops being entertainment. The stakes get too high to look away, and anybody telling you to scroll past it is telling you to accept something unacceptable. Which brings us to the moment that changed everything, the clip you have almost certainly seen by now, and if you have not, brace yourself, because this is the one. During one of those marathon broadcasts, one of the long ones, viewers say Junior appeared to have an episode right there on camera. The chat erupted. People typing frantically, caps lock everywhere. Seizure. Get help. Somebody do something. Self-identified nurses saying they were scared. And the viral clip shows the moment from multiple angles, with viewers pointing at the screen begging somebody, anybody, to intervene. And here is the part people cannot get past no matter how many times they replay it, no matter how many explanations get offered. According to the viewers who watched it happen live, Chrisean's response was not to end the stream. Not to scoop up her baby. Not to call anyone. Chrisean reportedly reached over and touched him. A quick, casual, almost detached touch, the way you would tap a stove to see if it was still warm. And then Chrisean got up and said she needed to go grab something real quick. The internet came completely undone, and honestly, how could it not? Because that is not how you respond when your child has a medical emergency in front of thousands of witnesses. That is how you respond when the broadcast matters more than the boy. And for a massive number of people, people who had defended her, people who had given her every benefit of every doubt, that was the exact second the grace ran out. And then there is the other clip, the quieter one, the one that somehow hurts more. Chrisean crawling across the floor toward Junior on her knees. And when Chrisean gets close, Junior startles. He jumps. And people ask the question that should haunt every parent watching. Why would a child flinch when his own mother approaches? The theory viewers landed on was that from his level on the ground, with her moving low and quiet, he simply did not register her coming until she was right on top of him. And they said that moment should have broken her. Your own baby jumping because he did not know you were there. That should have been the night the phone went down for good and every specialist in the state got a call in the morning. Instead, according to the people who watched, the live stayed on. The show rolled. And that, more than any single clip, more than any rumor, is why people say the camera is winning and the child is losing. Now let's talk about the debate that is going to flood this comment section, because I can see it coming from a mile away. There are people who call Chrisean a good mother. There are people who will defend her with their whole chest, and I understand where it comes from. She is young. She is a black woman living under a spotlight that has never been kind to women who look like her. She has been publicly humiliated more times than most people could survive. And there is absolutely a conversation worth having about how the internet treats black motherhood, about how fast the pile-ons form, about how the same platforms that bury discussions of real injustice will rocket boost any content that paints a black mother as a monster. That machine is real. The algorithm rewards this exact kind of content, it feeds on it, and if we are consuming this story, we are all inside that machine, and we should be honest about that instead of pretending our hands are clean. Think about how the incentives line up. A thoughtful conversation about the systems that fail young families. Buried. Flagged. Demonetized. But a young black mother melting down on a live stream for 12 hours. The algorithm pushes that like it is paying rent. And that means every view, every clip, every shocked reaction is also a paycheck signal telling everyone involved to keep the cameras rolling. The machine does not care whether the content is a celebration or a crisis. It only cares that you cannot look away. And a toddler does not get to opt out of being the product. But here is where I land, and I need you to hear me all the way through. None of that context changes what a child needs. A child does not need a debate about systems. A child needs dinner at the same time every day, a bed at the same time every night, a doctor when something is wrong, and a parent whose eyes are on him instead of on a view count. And when viewers say they have watched a toddler sit alone in a bare pen for hours, watched him appear to have a medical episode while the stream kept rolling, watched him out at 2 in the morning in grown folk environments, they are not asking for a sociology seminar. They are asking where the help is. A good mother, according to the people sounding the alarm, does not keep a broadcast running through her child's medical episode. That is not a high bar. That is the floor. And before anybody accuses me of giving the father a pass, absolutely not. Blueface is nobody's hero in this story, and do not let him off easy in the comments either. Blueface is a man who reportedly refused to sign for his son, refused to claim him at the hospital, then turned around years later and blamed the child's development on the mother in a public interview. Blueface is present one week and a ghost the next. A man who signed eagerly for one child and left the other one nameless. That is not fatherhood, that is favoritism with paperwork. But here is the distinction that matters, and it is the distinction the whole conversation keeps missing. Blueface is not the one holding the camera. Blueface is not the one in that house at 2 in the morning. Blueface is not the one making the daily decisions about that little boy's meals, his sleep, his doctors, his days. The adult in the room, according to everything that has been reported, is Chrisean. And responsibility lives with the adult in the room. That is not cruelty. That is math. And then there is the elephant in the room, the thing everybody is thinking and tiptoeing around. The obsession. Because viewers say every road in this story eventually loops back to Nivea. To the life Nivea reportedly has. To the name Nivea's son legally carries. To the version of the future Chrisean believed was hers and lost. And people say once you see that, you cannot unsee it, because suddenly the marathon streams stop looking like a content strategy and start looking like a woman performing a life for a man who stopped watching a long time ago, broadcasting a happiness nobody believes, while the child who needs her most sits in a corner of the frame. And look, heartbreak makes people do desperate things. I am not made of stone. But heartbreak is an explanation, not an excuse, and it has never once been a substitute for a pediatrician. And here is the part that ties it all together, the thing people say out loud only in the quiet corners of the comment sections. They say that little boy is not being raised as a son. He is being held as evidence. Evidence in a case against a man who left, proof that what they had was real, a living, breathing argument that Chrisean was supposed to be the one. And a child carrying that kind of assignment does not get to just be a child. Every milestone becomes a message. Every struggle becomes a scoreboard. And the saddest part is that Junior does not know any of it. Junior does not know his name is a battlefield. He does not know thousands of strangers are arguing over whether he is okay. He just knows the pen, and the light, and the voice talking to a screen instead of to him. So here is where I leave it, and I want to land this carefully, because I know how much weight this story carries. I am not asking you to hate Chrisean. Let me be crystal clear about that before we close, because cruelty toward a struggling mother has never once helped a single child, and if your takeaway from this video is a pile-on, you have missed the entire point. What I am asking you to do is the harder thing. Hold the complexity. Refuse to look away from a child in trouble just because the story is messy and the mother is sympathetic and the father is worse. The real test of this entire saga was never picking a side in a baby mama war. It is whether a little boy who cannot speak gets somebody, anybody, to speak for him. A child with reported health challenges. A mountain of clips that viewers say show zoning out on camera, hours alone in a bare play pen, late nights in adult environments, and reported sleep aids to keep him quiet. A mother who, according to the people watching, keeps the broadcast rolling through all of it. A father who blames from a distance. Specialists nobody can see. And an internet that will move on to the next scandal by next week, while that little boy keeps living inside this one every single day. Because that is what always happens, right? Something new pops off, the timeline refreshes, and everybody forgets. But the child does not get to forget. The child is living it. And the moment we all decide this is too messy, too complicated, too uncomfortable, that is the moment he loses the only advocates he has ever had. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to be one of the people who looked away. And Chrisean, if this ever reaches you, and let's be honest, you watch everything, hear this plainly, from one human being to another. Put the phone down. Log off. Pick up your son. Take him to a real doctor. Get him a real schedule, real toys, real therapy, real everything that a child with his reported challenges deserves. Not because the internet is watching. Not to prove the haters wrong. Because he is your son. Because he came into this world through you. Because he cannot do any of it for himself, and he is running out of time to wait for the adults to act like adults. And because one day, and I pray that day never comes, the streams will end, the views will dry up, Blueface will still not come back, and the only thing left in that house will be whatever you did or did not do for that little boy. Guilt like that does not fade. Do not let it get there. Do not let this end the way everybody is afraid it ends. Now I want to hear from you, because this one is going to split the room right down the middle, and both sides need to show up. Is this a struggling young mother being shredded by an internet that loves to watch her fall, or is this a pattern the system has ignored for way too long? Have you seen the clips yourself? What did you see? I especially want to hear from the nurses, the medical professionals, the parents, the people who have been watching this story for months with a pit in their stomach wondering what to do with it. Sound off in the comments, but keep it respectful, because remember, there is a real child at the center of every keystroke, and he deserves better from all of us. If this conversation mattered to you, like and subscribe so we can keep having the ones nobody else wants to touch. And to every parent watching right now, go hug your babies tonight. Look them in the face when you smile at them. Make sure they know they are loved, safe, and seen. Because that is not content. That is a birthright. And for every child out there being treated like a prop instead of a person, somebody has to be the voice. It might as well be us. Take care of your babies, y'all. I'll see you in the next one.